Dr. Dingman, we're going to go ahead and talk about what you're supposed to be doing. So let me share my screen and we'll go over the assignment and what you need to do. So instead of having my students write a traditional revision where you go back and you rewrite the essay according to the feedback, what I actually have my students do is write about the feedback, write about what scores they received on the rubric and explain to me where they think they did well and some areas where they need to improve. Okay, so there's a couple steps to this. So the first thing that you want to do is obviously watch this video where I'm explaining to you what you're supposed to be doing. Then you need to read a couple of things. I want you to go back and look at the Essay 1 assignment sheet. We're actually going to do it together in this video. Then you're going to take a look at the Essay 1 sample on the Essay 1 student sample page. I have the link right here to the annotated version. Watch that video as well, because it goes through that essay explaining exactly what makes that essay an above expectations or like an A-level essay. And then also read that Essay 1 revision reflection checklist. Essentially, it's the same checklist you used to submit the essay, but reading your essays, I can tell many of you did not look at that checklist, okay? So it's very important that in order to do this reflection, you look at that checklist. Okay, so once you've read those things, you've watched this video, you've read those things, you're ready to sit down and write the reflection. It's very brief. I'm cutting it back from 2 pages to 1 page, 2 pages max, okay? Don't exceed 2 pages, but I do need at least 1 page where you do the following, okay? Your response needs to be in MLA formatting and it needs to be 1 full page and your answers need to be sentences, not just bullet points. I have it written right here. What grade did you receive and how do you feel about it? Did you expect this grade and why? Do you have plans to make an appointment with the tutor or with me? And based on the rubric, what are some things you need to improve on? I need to know at least 4 things you need to improve and 2 things where you think you did pretty well, right? Meaning you got at least like developing skill, meeting expectations or above expectations. All right, so I give you a little example here. So for example, if on the rubric I indicated that you were developing the skill and use specific examples, quotations, and phrases to support your ideas category on the rubric, then I need you to explain what you would do to develop a stronger paragraph. Maybe put more details or put more evidence, right? But just a brief explanation of what you could have done to strengthen that part of the essay. I also have other samples that are on that essay samples page, as well as like an individual paragraph sample. So make sure you're looking at those samples. Okay, I do provide those as guides for you, not to just straight up copy, but for you to see, okay, this is what it looks like in paragraph form. This is the amount of detail. This is the level of details I should be sharing. Okay, so if your reflection is in full paragraph sentence format, not bullet points, and it's MLA and at least 1 full page, you're going to get the full credit for it. If you don't, I'm going to mark it as incomplete and you're going to have to revise it until it's what it's supposed to be, until it meets these requirements. Okay, so the first thing that I want us to do is let's go ahead and take a look at the assignment sheet. Okay, so for the assignment sheet, you can see you're trying to demonstrate that you can effectively summarize a reading, that you can choose specific examples from your own experiences that connect to that reading, and that you can then write about and illustrate how those 3 specific examples connect to that reading, right? So you had 5 different texts to choose from. You were only supposed to choose 1, not all 5, not 2, not 3, 1 text. And if you chose Habits of Mind, you should have just written about 1 habit of mind, but I won't be a fuss. You need to have chosen three specific learning examples from your past. 2 should be academic. 1 could have been non-academic, unless you've been out of school for a long time, right? Then it was totally fine for you to just pick 3 non-academic, but you should have at least 2. And then that 3rd one can be hobbies, sports, parenting, like any situation where you learned, okay? Then what I also ask you to do is summarize, right? That's the first bullet point, is summarize. So you're supposed to summarize the concept, the reading for your readers, then hit us with your 3 experiences, how they connect to that specific reading. And then the conclusion, it has right here, you're supposed to discuss this class. So let's say you wrote about brainology. You picked great brainology. Okay, so the first thing that you should have done after you wrote your introduction paragraph was you needed to have a summary of brainology. Then after that, your first experience, then your second experience, then your third experience, then your conclusion. Okay, so if you're writing about brainology, I should see a summary about brainology and then 3 different learning experiences wherein you had a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, or you switched from a fixed to a growth, or fixed from a growth to a fixed, and how that impacted your learning and motivation. Same thing if you chose grit. If you picked grit, I should see 3 examples where you had or lacked grit. Or responsibility from habits of mind, 3 occasions where you had responsibility or you lacked responsibility. 3 occasions where people thought you were being lazy and you were having something else going on if you chose laziness does not exist. 3 examples where you worked towards mastery or didn't really work towards mastery from chapter 5 if you select that one. Okay, so you needed to write about 3 specific learning experiences that connected over to whichever specific reading you chose. Okay, then the conclusion, I put it right here. Please close by bringing me up to the present. How do you think you can use or develop that specific trait? So like growth mindset in this specific class. And I gave you guys examples, right, on the brainstorm and also in the student samples. So on that conclusion, I should have seen some specific things that you had planned on doing in order to stay responsible or stay gritty or maintain that growth mindset, right? Things like that. And your essay should have been at least 3 full pages. I know here there was a mistake, but it was 3 full pages, which is actually quite a small essay for a college level class. Most college level classes assign papers that are 5 to 7 pages, okay? And the research paper is actually 6 pages. So 3 pages is nothing, especially after you consider you need like half a page for a summary, half a page for an intro, half a page for a conclusion. Really, you only had to write 1.5 pages about yourself and your 3 learning experiences. That's something that you can absolutely do. Okay, so that's what you should have been doing for the prompt. Now, in the essay module, let's go back. I just want to show you really quickly. In that essay 1 module, all of the stuff that you need to check out is going to be in the drafting materials section. Let's wait for this thing to load. But in the drafting materials section, I actually did have an explanation, an outline explanation. If we scroll down here, you'll see Essay 1 drafting materials prompt overview. That's what we just did. Now we're going to skip down here to the outlined explanation for Essay 1. Okay, so I have basically this thing that broke down and explained exactly what each part of the essay should look like or how it should be organized and in the order it should be organized. Some of you are just skipping right past pages. Do not do that. Every single page in a module you are supposed to look at and read and watch the videos and interact with that page, not just the ones that have assignments. Okay, so some of you skipped right over this and then it became very obvious when I looked at your essay and it wasn't following this format. So first thing that you should have written was an intro that ends with a thesis that addresses the prompt, okay? And with a thesis that lists those specific 3 learning experiences without announcing. In my essay, I'm going to tell you about 3 learning experiences, just getting right to it. So take a look at the sample here. After learning what a fixed and growth mindsets are and how they work, I have analyzed my own learning and realized that I have experiences with both a fixed and a growth mindset. I had a fixed mindset in 11th grade math and a growth mindset in Spanish 1 and driver's ed. And those mindsets really impacted my learning and motivation. Very clear, precise, detailed thesis. We know exactly which 3 experiences they're going to be talking about, right? And we know which reading they're going to be talking about. Brainology, fixed and growth mindset, and they're talking about 3 specific learning examples. Their 11th grade math class where they had a fixed mindset, their Spanish 1 class where they had a growth mindset, and driver's ed where they had a growth mindset. All very clear right there in that thesis. Your thesis should have looked very similar to that. Then right after your thesis, I should have been able to see the summary section. And the summary section should have been at least 1 paragraph, maybe more if you're writing about brainology, short paragraph on fixed mindset, short paragraph on growth mindset, but you should have had a summary section, okay? If you felt really sophisticated, you're very strong with summaries and you already know how to use quotes and do those types of things, then it was fine if you wove the summary within your body paragraphs. But a lot of you that did that, you didn't do a good job summarizing. So you should have had a separate summary section. Then you get into your educational experiences. one or more paragraphs for the first experience. We don't cram all three of them or even two into one paragraph. Every experience needs its own paragraph, at least one. And if it's a longer details that you're giving, you might need to split it up in two, okay? After you finish with that first educational experience, you do the same thing and roll into your second. After you finish that, you discuss your third experience. After that, you jump into the conclusion where you bring me up to the current situation, this English class, and how you intend to develop grittiness or growth mindset or responsibility, or right, try to stick to what it is you need to get done in this class, right? And by giving me specific examples, specific details of what you could do. Then lastly, you should have had a works cited page. And if you would have looked at the works cited page that's actually in this module in the drafting section, you would have read that page and seen that I did the works cited for you. All you had to do was copy and paste. So again, you have to look at every single page within a module and read it, okay? Read it. So after we take a look at that, the next thing I want you to take a look at is, let's scroll down. All right. Take a look at that brainstorm and graphic organizer. On the brainstorm and graphic organizer, I had a video that showed you exactly what you were supposed to be doing, but that graphic organizer had boxes, right, where it demonstrated how you were supposed to be breaking up that work into those three different experiences and giving plenty of details. Okay, so the next thing I want us to take a look at is the samples. Let's take a look at the samples. So there's the brainstorm and graphic organizer. Take a look at the sample that I have. Take a look at the video. I walk you through and explain how you need to have those details. Okay, so here's the brainstorm graphic organizer. Please don't touch my things. When you guys touch my things, it changes it for everybody. That's why I have do not edit at the top there. So when you're looking at my samples, please don't change them, okay? So that your other classmates can see these as well. Okay, so when you get to the student samples page, which again, in the essay module, it says right here, student samples, review these before you start your own draft. Again, I can tell some of you did not do this and it showed in your essay. So what I want you to do here is on this page, right, I have a video, watch that video and review the sample essay, okay? You can click on it here to get to the annotated version. And this is what the annotated version looks like, okay? And like I said, I go through this in the video, but in this annotated version, you can see my little notes out here to the side. So what made this such a phenomenal essay for it to be the example? Take a look. All of the MLA stuff is there. Name block on the first page and first page only. Header with the last name and page number on the upper right-hand corner of every single page. If you don't know how to do that, go to the MLA module. That was one of the very first things we talked about in this class, okay? You should not have any problems with MLA formatting at this point because it's also as simple as Googling it and looking up an MLA template, right? Work smarter, not harder. You should not be struggling with basic MLA page setup. I have information on that in the MLA module. And like I said, simple Google search will produce a perfect MLA template for you. So you do have to show some initiative and look into these things, okay? But they're there for you and will save you a lot of hassle and trouble and getting, you know, marked down for not having a properly formatted essay. So you have to make sure you do that. And beyond just MLA, basic essay formatting, okay? Some of you are not indenting paragraphs or not even separating your words into paragraphs. In writing, in English language writing, we split up ideas into separate paragraphs and those paragraphs are indented, right? There's a space at the beginning. So you can see here, she has separate paragraphs all the way throughout and each new body paragraph is indented, okay? And then when we get to her end there, I can see she has a works cited page and it's using the one article that she wrote about. Not all of them. She didn't just copy and paste the entire works cited page. She did what I told you and grabbed the one citation and put it in her works cited page and made sure it had the hanging indent. If you don't know how to do that, again, go to the MLA module and look up how to format pages, including how to do a hanging indent. Again, same thing. Google, YouTube will show you exactly how to do a hanging indent. All right, so if you take a look at the rest of this, you can see she has her own title, which we were required to write, not just essay one, rough draft one, peer review, or essay one. No. It should be your own specific title that you gave the essay. Okay, we can see her introduction paragraph has all the main parts. She has the hook, the elaboration, the bridge, and the thesis. If you don't know what I'm talking about, head over to the parts of an essay page in the introduction or in the essay one module or in the writing resources module. I explain those 4 pieces of an introduction on that page. Okay, so then we can see she ends her introduction with a very clear thesis. After reading the article Brainology by Carol Dweck, I realized that my fixed mindset in junior year of high school and math class transformed into a growth mindset in my senior year AP and Lit class, or AP Literature and Theater classes. So again, very clear thesis. We can see 3 specific learning experiences connected to Brainology, right? We see fixed mindset in junior year math and growth mindset in AP Lit and Theater, all laid out for us very clearly there in that thesis. Then we can see she gets into her summary, and she has a topic sentence that makes it clear that she's summarizing. And then she writes a summary. And notice that she split the summary into 2 paragraphs because it was starting to get long. Anytime you're doing that and a paragraph starts to get long, you have to split it up. Nobody wants to read page-long paragraphs or longer, which you'll also see she did that a little bit later in the essay. She made some of her paragraphs too long. So that's something you want to watch. Okay, but overall, you can see strong summary as you're reading through it. And she's using quotations properly embedded, right? And the proper citations with either the author's last name and the page number, or just the page number if you mentioned the author's last name in the signal phrase leading into the quote. Okay, and you can see that she does that here. I did mention that it's a strong summary, you see here in my comments, but maybe shorten it up a little bit, okay? Kind of a Goldilocks thing. We don't want a summary that's too short so the audience doesn't understand what it is you're talking about, but we don't need to rewrite the whole article for them, all right? We want to keep a summary, especially something like Brainology, to like no more than 3/4 of a page to a full page. Longer than that, and your essay starts to become way too much summary. And it should be just a little bit of summary with a focus on your personal experiences. So then we get into her body paragraphs, and you can see that her topic sentences and the order of the paragraphs perfectly match with her thesis, okay? The exact same order. Math class, if you were to scroll back up to her thesis, you can see math class, first thing mentioned, okay? The content and order of your thesis and the body paragraphs must match. Whatever you put in the thesis better be in the body paragraphs, and the order you list those things in the thesis better be the order they show up in the essay. She does that. We can perfectly see how she moves first experience, second experience, third experience, and it matches directly up with her thesis. Take a look at these body paragraphs, super detailed, and she's making connections back to the readings as well. And she's writing long paragraphs, and there's a reason why they're long, and that's because she's using specific details. When you're writing an essay like this, an autobiographical narrative where you're painting details and sharing memories with us, you have to paint the picture, right? Your words paint the picture. So you have to use all those good details and strong words to paint that picture for us. Don't just tell me you had a growth mindset. Show me you had a growth mindset. What did that look like when you had a growth mindset, right? Were you studying? Were you taking notes? Were you sitting up front in the class when you got home? Were you like turning off the TV, putting on music, doing your homework as soon as you got, things like that, right? Demonstrate for me. What did it look like to have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? We can see that in each of her examples, all 3 of them, with this third one being probably the best example. Excellent details, very, very, very strong example here. Like I said, my only critique is that the body paragraphs start to get too long, and she should have split up each of those 3 experiences into like 2 paragraphs, right? And keep that in mind. In college, paragraph count doesn't matter, okay? We're not writing 5-paragraph essays. You write as many paragraphs as it takes for you to answer the prompt, okay? So for this student's essay, she could have had something like, you know, like 10 paragraphs, right? An intro, conclusion, 2 for the summary, and then 2 for each of the body paragraphs. So don't worry about 5-paragraph format. Worry about, am I answering the prompt? Do I have enough details, enough paragraphs to actually answer what I'm claiming in my thesis. Okay, so but great details. Make sure you read through this so you can see exactly how she was painting these details to illustrate for me, right, how she had that growth mindset and what it looked like to have a growth mindset in this theater class that she's talking about here. Then in her conclusion, we can see she's restating the thesis. Okay, she's addressing like the future, how in general she wants to maintain that growth mindset. And here in the yellow section, she's giving me specific examples of how she's going to develop a growth mindset in this specific class. Okay, so her conclusion is doing what it's supposed to. It's following the prompt and bringing me up to the present and addressing this class. And then as I already showed you, she has the works cited with the hanging indent. She copied it from my works cited sample and just pasted it into her essay and maintained the formatting. This is an above expectations. This is what would be considered a traditional A paper, okay? So make sure you read through this and see exactly what she was doing that made it such a strong paper, okay? Then I also have some experience paragraph samples. If you take a look at, let's see, here, and then here is the sample learning experience paragraph. Okay, that was what it was just showing you here, experience 1 paragraph. So this is from a different student's essay. He was writing about mastery. And this is a paragraph that where he was writing about trying to work towards mastery in a weightlifting class or body conditioning. And you can see he starts with a clear topic sentence that expresses that. And then he gives us details, very strong details that explains how he was working towards mastery. And mastery is a mindset, mastery is a pain, mastery is an asymptote, all the way throughout this body paragraph. Again, same thing, he probably should have split it into 2 because it starts to get quite long, right? It's a paragraph that's longer than a page, that's too long. But overall, the details are excellent. He's doing a fantastic job of showing me how he had was working towards mastery and all that hard work that he was putting in to get better and better at something that mattered to him, which in this case was his body conditioning class in high school. So take a look at this example, okay? You have a full essay example with our other student, and you can see all of her experiences. And then I isolated one from another essay for you to see how somebody else did an experience paragraph about mastery, right? Dan Pink's chapter 5 mastery. Then over in our module, if you would have continued scrolling past our rough draft stuff, you see works cited page. If you would have clicked on that, it opened up this page that explained to you that it was your responsibility to click on the works cited page and take your one sample and add it to your paper, okay? And had you clicked on this, you would have seen that I had that whole works cited done for you. All you had to do was copy and paste. So again, please make sure you are clicking on every single page within a module and reading those entire pages. Okay, so that's the works cited page. Then just past the works cited page, before you turned in your essay, I included an essay 1 final draft checklist. Now I didn't make this a requirement because I figured most of you would actually click on it and use it, but you didn't, okay? So I'm gonna make the final checklist required for essay 3. But if you click on this, it will have pulled up the essay 1 final review checklist, okay? And this thing would have made it very clear to you if you were missing any pieces of that essay or not doing the essay as the prompt instructs you to do, okay? I asked you, do you have a name block that follows MLA formatting? Do you have a header, right, with the upper in the upper right-hand corner with last name and page number? Do you have a title that is centered in plain text, no bolding, no underlining, no word art, yada, yada? Is each new paragraph indented? Do you have a works cited page? And then the major parts of the essay, I ask, does your essay follow this pattern? Intro, summary, experience 1, experience 2, experience 3, conclusion, works cited. If you would have checked this, you would have been able to go through, check your paper, see if you did or didn't. Do you introduce the reading in the introduction? Does your intro end with a clear thesis that lists out those 3 specific learning experiences? Do you start your summary with a topic sentence that makes it clear that you're going to summarize something? Is the summary like half a page to a full page? Does your summary use 2 quotations? Does each experience paragraph start with a clear topic sentence that mentions the concept that you're writing about? Does your conclusion list specific ways you're going to develop that specific trait, right? Growth mindset, grit, all of those in this class. And then I put some things down here that you should avoid or things to fix. Do not use you anywhere in the essay unless it's in a direct quotation. We don't use the second person you in formal college level academic essays unless it's in quotations or unless your instructor gives you specific permission to do that. We also don't refer to authors by their first names. They're not Carol and Dan and Devin, right? They're Dr. Dweck, Dr. Price, Pink. We use last names, not first names. Book titles and articles need to be properly formatted. Book title like Drive, chapter 5 from Drive. Drive needs to be italicized, whereas the articles, the significance of brainology, the habits of mind, and laziness does not exist. Those all should have been in quotations. Longer works italicized, shorter works in quotations. Okay, and then when you're writing quotes, you want to make sure you're avoiding something that we call a floating quotation or a parachute quote. And I gave you an example here. What makes a floating quote is the fact that the entire sentence is nothing but quotation. So if you take a look at this, right, there's no lead in. There's no lead in. It doesn't say Duhigg explains, Duhigg says, Duhigg claims, Duhigg quotes, right? It's just quotation. That is the improper way to use a quotation. The proper way is to introduce the quotation by using some kind of lead in or signal phrase, right? So this one says Duhigg claims. And then we have the quotation. And then in that parenthetical citation, since we mentioned Duhigg's name here, we don't need to put it here. We just put the page number. Okay, so make sure you review through this checklist. All right, that's what you are doing. And then you're going to sit down and actually do your assignment. Okay, your essay 1 revision reflection. So again, let's go back over to that. You can find the essay 1 revision reflection assignment here in the essay 3 module, not in essay 1, in the essay 3 module. Okay. And like I said, after you review all these things, including this video I just made, then you can go ahead and start on that revision reflection. And like I said, it's going to be pretty short. You only need to write 1 full page, 2 pages maximum if you really are getting into it. But don't exceed that. Okay, it should actually probably take you longer to read through the sample essay, your essay, watch this video, than it takes you to write the response. So please make sure you're looking at all those things and completing your response. I have down here, if your reflection does not meet the minimum requirements, right? If it's in bullet points, or if it's not using, full sentences and paragraphs, or if it's not 1 full page, you're not going to get credit for that. I'm going to mark it as incomplete, and you're going to have to redo it until it's complete. And don't forget, you need to do these short little reflections for essay 1 and essay 2 in order to pass. You'll be getting your essay 2 feedback as soon as possible, and we'll get that into me. Okay. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can always text me or email me. If you want more feedback, you can always text me or email me, or come see me during office hours. Don't forget, you can also go see the tutor. If you want to get a conference for this revision reflection, you can. There are some of you that maybe are shooting for the A, but you missed a conference for essay 1. Take the revision reflection. You can take revision reflections to the Writing Center and have them take a look at your what you're claiming you need to work on, and see if it makes sense and if you're explaining things well. Right. So here's another opportunity for you to be able to go and get a conference. If you miss some conferences, remember, you need to do at least 1 conference to get a C, 2 conferences to get a B, and 3 conferences to get an A. Okay. So make sure you do that. And like I said, make sure you do these revision reflections for both essay 1 and essay 2. You have to do both of those reflections, as well as originally submitting essays 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 5 required assignments for this class. All the other ones, right, you have the option to skip them, but not these 5. All 3 of our major essays, as well as revision reflections for essay 1 and 2, must be submitted. Okay, so if you have any questions, concerns, you need any help with anything, go ahead and shoot me a text or shoot me an email, and I'll get right back to you.